Okay, everyone, I have to confess I have been jabbering on for the last 2 minutes on mute. Apologies for that. Okay, so today we have with us Caitlin Jekyll and Bill Messenger from the Washington State Labor Council. Very happy to have them with us, and they'll be talking to us about TAA-eligible participants. After that, we will move on to a discussion about recruiting veterans, and then we will end with some updates and a few comments about our June meeting. So, a little bit about Bill and Caitlin. They are with the Washington State Labor Council, AFL-CIO, which is the umbrella labor organization serving Washington State. However, what they have to tell you about TAA-eligible participants is applicable to people in other states, including our friends in Virginia. Bill and Caitlin work full-time serving displaced workers, and they gained an expanded role in the Trade Act when they received a DOL grant in 2010 to enhance outreach to participants, service providers, and eligible businesses. And I am happy to say that they will be partnering with us on this grant to help us support workers and reach TAA-eligible participants. A little bit about each of them. Bill worked in the pulp and paper industry as a power plant operator for Weyerhaeuser for 30 years, and Bill was also the union president there when his mill shut down. So he is no stranger to the workforce system. He served, after his plant was certified for TAA, he served in WorkSource as a peer advocate for his colleagues, and he's been working for the Washington State Labor Council since 2006. Caitlin began in the Workforce Development System as a WIA dislocated worker program counselor in Aberdeen, and after experiencing a layoff herself, in 2010 she joined the Washington State Labor Council to support their TAA efforts, and has been there ever since. So, with that, I am going to turn things over to Bill and Caitlin.
Hi, folks. So, it's just Caitlin here right now. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Great. So, Bill, unfortunately, he's got a couple of meetings and then is off to Richland, and so he may be able to slip in and meet you all in a little bit. But if not, he's going to help and be of support throughout the entire grant, and will likely meet you all soon. So just a little bit, and you got a little bit of an overview, but for those of you who don't know, Bill and I are partners in around the state in all these different systems in both Rapid Response, Trade Act, and file a large portion of the Trade Act petitions for the state of Washington. So we've been invited to participate in this grant initiative, and we're really excited to support you guys however we can. Our biggest role is really the petition process and helping with folks who think they might be eligible, getting them in the door, but then also different areas, whatever folks need, helping shepherd workers through the system as they are figuring out how to access services. So I've got a little bit of stuff to say today, but please feel free to just stop me. I think putting something up on the chat box, or just chime in and ask any questions as we go. I don't want to bore you with stuff that you already know, so let me know if I'm starting out places that you are already there. So for those of you who don't know, the Trade Act program was first enacted in the 1960s. We often call it TAA. A lot of people call it Trade Act. It's Trade Adjustment Assistance Act. And it's a federal program that was designed to help with businesses and workers that were adversely affected by trade deals that were then displacing workers, and has throughout the years continued to be reauthorized and changed slightly with all these different trade negotiations that have happened over time. So because of that, it's pretty unique to other workforce development programs and provides more benefits than others do. and really allows people, as you all are working with folks in the college, really allows participants to get into longer-term training programs, provides some additional financial support than you're typically seeing with people who are using dislocated worker services or worker retraining. Really quick on the petition process, when a company believes that they have been adversely impacted or a worker believes that they might have been trade impacted in their layoff, there's a process that they have to go through to get the company itself certified under the Trade Act program. And that's where Bill and I typically come in. There's a 3-page application that you can send to the U.S. Department of Labor, and anyone can do that. 3 workers can, the company, someone from a WorkSource office, someone from the state offices can all send that in. We typically try and do a little bit of a preliminary investigation before we hand that in, and we send them a pretty extensive packet of research on trade statistics, website articles, newspaper articles relating to the company and the industry that the company was in. And pull that together. We try and sort of prepare the company for what they're going to encounter with the investigation, teach them the right language of what questions they're going to be asked, how best to answer them, and try and ease people into as quick of a process as possible with the Department of Labor. Now, the Department of Labor does their own investigation, and that can be quite lengthy. Sometimes we'll get them back pretty quickly and get people right on their way, and sometimes it's up to multiple months of the investigation. It really depends on quite a number of things, but it's important to know as you're speaking with people who might have a petition at the Department of Labor, something that's going through investigation, that the timeline really varies. Once a petition does get certified, then the workers that were impacted in that business a year before the petition was certified and up to 2 years after, everyone who's laid off in that window is then able to access the Trade Act program and go through the process to potentially receive some training services. They each are going to have to do an individual enrollment and bring that paperwork to the WorkSource to be able to access the services. And we'll go into that a little bit more in just a bit.
Hey, Caitlin, this is Margaret.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could hang up and redial in. If you look on the screen at the top menu bar, you'll see audio, and you can click on audio conference because we're not able to see you on video. And I think maybe it's how you called in. So if you go to audio conference, and then click on phone, you'll see a number.
Okay, audio conference.
And it'll give you a, in addition to an access code, a number.
Oh, yes. Sounds good. I'll call right back.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Yep.
Sorry about that, everybody. We did do a run-through, but things happen.
Can you all see me now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Caitlin.
Wonderful. I was seeing you guys and seeing myself in the corner, but didn't realize it wasn't working. Thanks. So I think that you guys received, if you scroll down here a little bit, where do we have, did we put up the frequently asked questions on here? Margaret?
I can easily load those up.
Okay, well, we pulled together a little frequently asked questions that was trying to be tailored to what you guys might be encountering regarding the Trade Act program as you're going through this, and can easily add more information onto it if you're not hearing or seeing what you were hoping for as far as enrolling Trade Act participants. But something that's on it that we want to go over is just a little bit about what the package of benefits are that Trade Act participants receive. Now, you don't want to get caught up in the specifics about exactly the numbers on all this stuff, because every petition is a little bit different depending on what year it was certified. Like I said before, it's gone through a few reauthorizations and different changing arounds of benefits. But right here under what participants will receive is an overview that's going to be pretty consistent for everyone that you're going to be seeing, unless you're seeing someone with a really old petition, but that's pretty unlikely. So roughly, folks are going to have access to a health coverage tax credit, which is going to subsidize their health care costs while they're enrolled in the Trade Act program. Occupational training, and we'll talk a little bit about what someone has to do to be eligible for the occupational training, but up to 2 years of fully funded training with some remedial, some completion, different things that you guys might encounter as you're talking with folks who are accessing training. The other important feature is the income support. So a normal worker is going to have their standard unemployment claim, potentially some extended benefits, and training benefits if they applied for that and are in an eligible training program. Folks in Trade Act, if they are in an eligible and approved training program, they're going to have some additional income support that's going to go with them until the end of their training, unless their training goes over that window of time. And so it helps people really be able to budget for a longer-term training program and something that, that they can stay with you folks for a while. Then, when they're doing job search and relocation, there's some financial assistance for helping people move on and getting another job, as well as an older worker wage subsidy, which with certain types of the Trade Act program, depending again on when the certification happened, folks can both take a wage replacement with a part-time job and do a little bit of training, but it's not going to be that full-time, long-term training, but potentially you might encounter that a little bit with maybe someone doing a certificate program. Does that all make sense? Is everyone seeing the handout?
And Caitlin, did you want to ask a few questions of the group as well about their familiarity with other benefits packages?
Yeah. Were we going to pop that up on the screen, or should I just?
I can open that right now. Okay, you all should see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen a poll asking you several different questions. You could select the answers. Give everybody another minute on this. Okay, I see answers are still coming in. Okay. Just take a minute for it to show the poll results. Okay, can you see the poll results?
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
So we've got a little bit of a range here. And I apologize for those of you who it seems you're pretty familiar with all this stuff. I hope you can be patient with us. But for those of you who haven't really been into the workforce very much or engaged with these programs, there's a lot of intricacies to all these different things. And you're going to be seeing participants, both those who are receiving Trade Act benefits, as well as those who are receiving financial aid through a myriad of other programs, including veterans assistance and different dislocated worker programs. So the Trade Act program that we're talking about today, like I said, it's very unique to the other ones in that it is offering a package of services that's really setting people up for a longer-term training plan, as opposed to maybe worker retraining or the WIA program, Workforce Investment Act, where people are going to be piecing together their training services with a few different pots of money. Doesn't mean that it's not possible. Absolutely, they're going to be able to access your training. It's just going to require a little bit more planning on their part and with you on how they're going to be able to fund that. Trade Act is going to allow you to really put together a longer-term training plan with the workers. So it's really nice in that regard. One of the things that we were asking about is going to the work source and making yourself familiar with who these counselors are, what services they provide. As soon as you do get an opportunity to go do that, I really recommend it. It would be nice for you to be able to walk around, just chat with people and get an overview. You're not going to need to be a counselor for these folks in what their benefits packages are, but to know a little bit about the programs that they're going to be accessing and who's going to be walking in your door would be a good help for you, especially familiarizing yourself with the Trade Act counselor for being able to communicate with them as you're seeing these participants, being able to talk with them about what some of the needs are so that you guys can collectively serve the workers. Were there questions about benefits before we move on into how the eligibility works and how enrollment works?
I have a question. This is Andy. Is it going to be our role to help these people get enrolled in the, to help them get involved with this, Margaret?
No, so likely when you're seeing folks who are wanting to enroll in the program and meet with you, you're going to be seeing them once they already know that they are in the program and that they're pursuing a training plan. While they're going through that process, there's ways that you can ease their process, help them along, and it'll make the college's job easier and the worker's job easier if you guys are on the same page about what their program is. Now, the individual enrollment and all of the eligibility guidelines, that's going to happen through the WorkSource office. But for you to have an overview of what that looks like and how you can support them is just going to help you better understand where they're at in the process.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, well, we're going to jump into a little bit more.
Oh, I was going to ask, so what we've been running into is that our programs have a lot of prerequisite classes. So for nursing and pharmacy tech, they often have to take other courses. And so if the benefits could be extended, because what it looks like is if they're 2 years, that often would be 2 years just to get through the initial requirements, and then they wouldn't get benefits once they're accepted into our programs.
Yes, and so we deal with that a lot, especially with the nursing program, which is tough because you've got folks that at the end then they have to be eligible for the nursing program, and it's such rigorous guidelines. In situations like that, to some degree the Trade Act program allows people to do some prerequisites, some completion. There's ways to extend it out into a slightly longer training plan. But if they've got a pretty extensive package of prerequisites, partnering with other programs that are offered at the WorkSource offers the ability to extend it out and hold off on the Trade Act benefits until they're at a point where they'd be able to fit it into this plan. So it's tough because it ends up being pretty costly to the WorkSource and pretty lengthy for the workers, but folks who are trying to do it should really co-enroll in both the Trade Act program and the Workforce Investment Act program, because oftentimes Workforce Investment Act will be able to fund some of that startup, then potentially worker retraining at the college can fund a quarter, and then we're moving into a point where you can write one training plan for Trade Act. That was easier when there was more money in the system. There's so many people right now where Trade Act, when a company is certified, the workers are entitled to enroll in the program and to start moving along with this process. The dislocated worker program, worker retraining, some of these other services, they're first come, first serve. So in an area that is dealing with a lot of layoffs, their funding levels are going to vary on how much they can pay as far as tuition is concerned. But most areas, at least in Washington State, encourage co-enrollment just because different programs can fund different things, and where Trade Act can fund quite a bit, some of the other programs can step in and pick up some of the pieces that Trade Act can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm more just wondering for Margaret, for the grant, if a student comes, because we can see a kind of a list of students who are TAA eligible, but if their funding has run out, if it would still count for us for our numbers, or if we still say that, even, you know, because often they will have already been through that by the time we're seeing them.
That's a very interesting question, Adriana. Let me look into that. We can ask the DOL about that situation. So they were TAA eligible, but they've used up their benefits.
Yes, I'm just thinking that that might be something that's coming up.
And you're saying they've already completed a Trade Act training program?
Yeah, they may have, or they may have gotten the benefits and now, I'm just not sure, because the ones that I'm seeing, like we were saying with the nursing, by the time they are done with their prereqs, the grant really isn't until they're officially into the program. So is the TAA only if they're officially accepted into a program?
So the Trade Act training portion has to be written for one training plan. So if you're seeing a worker that has already received Trade Act training, then likely they've received training under a particular plan. It's not like someone says, okay, I've got 2 years and I went for a year in nursing and now I want to switch to, you know, this other program. It's going to be written for the one program. So if somebody comes to you and they've already received a training program, they likely can't then be in a different training program. But if they've been out of work for a while, were eligible for Trade Act, but didn't do a Trade Act training program, it's just been quite some time, maybe they went back to work for a bit or something like that, the training portion, those dollars that are available to go to school, stay with somebody for life unless the Trade Act program goes away.
Okay.
So, Adriana, we'll do a little more digging from the, you know, in terms of DOL rules on that, but it sounds like if they're, the plan that's listed on their TA documentation is the one that they're pursuing at your school, then they would probably be counted. But we'll get a definite answer.
Sounds good.
All right. So you're going to see TAA participants in a couple of different ways. Like I said earlier, most likely you're going to be seeing them once they know that they are certified, that they have already seen a counselor, now they're pursuing a training program. You might also see them, though, when they're going through the individual enrollment process, where they've heard that there's a certification, but they haven't gotten into the work source yet, or they know that a petition has been filed, but they haven't gotten a certification yet. So checking in with people about what stage they're in is important. You can work with them and talk to them about the program, but until they have enrolled with a work source counselor and spoke to them about entering a training program, it's very much not advisable that they start enrolling in a training program at the school, because you want to make sure that they really are getting the go-ahead from work source to start moving forward with that. So when the company is certified, then each individual worker has to fill out a form. It's called a request for determination. And what that gives them once they fill it out is sort of a ticket that says an overview of their benefits and the information that they'll need to bring to WorkSource to be able to enroll in the program. After that, they enroll with a counselor. they start talking about their needs in the program. A lot of Trade Act counselors are going to start with pretty extensive investigation of their job search, their existing skills, looking at the labor market and how their existing skills are going to, how marketable they're going to be. And all of that is what they need as far as proof to be able to send people off to find a training program. Just like with a lot of these other programs, you have to be able to prove that the skills that you have aren't going to get you a job. Either the industry that you're in is in decline, or that you've gone out and looked at the job market and right now your skills aren't getting you a job. And that's going to bring people to that next level to where they'd be eligible to pursue a training program. That's when they're most likely going to be coming to you and saying, I got the go-ahead, now I'm looking into training plans. That individual training plan process, they get a pretty extensive packet. I'm assuming some of you have seen it before, but it looks like some of you haven't. They have to do research on the training plan, both about what it's going to cost at the school, what the timeline is going to be, and then also what the industry looks like. What's the outlook in your area, and are they likely to find a job in the field after they get out? And that's somewhere that you guys can really come in handy, is familiarizing yourself with that packet, getting a feel for what that process is going to look like. It's something that maybe when you go and visit someone at the work source, talking to the counselors about what their individual needs are, what they find most helpful coming out of the colleges. And then being prepared to help workers answer some of those questions. They're going to want to look up and find information about their previous employment, show that the skills that they have are in a declining industry, and then be able to prove the same for the training plan. So if you all look that information up, know about your local area, know what some of the jobs that people might be placed in, have some of those handouts available so that when people are coming to see you asking those questions, you're prepared to answer it. And I can, you guys let me know if that's something you feel familiar with, or I can definitely get you some more information on that as well. Any thoughts on that? Okay, so I'm assuming you all feel comfortable with that, with looking up demand decline information and what's happening in industries in your area? All right. So then the other things that you guys are going to be encountering is that the workers are going to be looking into how to write out this training plan and what it's going to entail. From what I understand, a lot of these health IT portions are in sort of stackable, credentials that can be placed into, my screen's going away. Okay. Either in smaller portions or into a larger, more long-term training plan. One of the things to note about Trade Act in particular, which isn't necessarily the case for all programs, is that you get one shot at a training plan. It needs to be written from the beginning the way that the training plan is going to be. So if a worker comes in and says, I really need to turn around, get a job very soon, I want to do just a short-term credential, get back out into the job market. It's far more advisable that they write a training plan that's got 6 of those credentials that's going to be a 2-year training plan that's going to lead to one more longer-term goal, and let them know if they get that one credential out of the way, that first quarter happens and they find a job and they're going to leave and not complete the training program, good for them. Obviously, the goal is for them to then lead to employment. But if it turns out after that one quarter they've either found school is going very well for them and they're interested in learning more, or that the jobs that they thought they'd be able to get with that one quarter of completion under their belt just aren't there, they've got that flexibility then in that plan that was written to do it for 2 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and the counselor is going to be sitting down and writing these plans with the workers. So it's not all on you, but they are going to be coming to you with the school research portion of their packet, or they're going to be going to work a retraining office, but I'm assuming you all are going to be the point of contact for folks who are coming into this particular training program. So they'll probably be sitting down with you to ask some dates about start and end of the plan, and cost, and what the final credential is going to lead to, and what that's going to look like. And so to be looking for where people are saying how long the training plan is going to be, ask them if they considered some of this, is a way that you can really help advocate for them and get them into a good program that's going to work well for them.
Caitlin, this is Margaret, and one challenge with health IT roles is that currently there is no occupational code.
Okay.
Fits a lot of the programs that we're developing. Do the people who look at review the TAA plans, do they accept things like statistics from credible sources in lieu of so for example, because there's no occupational code, it is not on the demand decline list.
Interesting. Well, it's something that I think that we should find an answer that's going to be pretty much universal for you guys. The demand decline list is the first resource that any of these programs is going to look for, obviously, because it's the easiest way to prove that. But if we can find an alternative that you all can be prepared with so that everybody isn't reinventing the wheel trying to find that information, then we should, and I'm happy to do some follow-up with you on that. I know when I was in the workforce, we had a cohort training that was in power plant operation, and in Grays Harbor, there were no jobs in that field. So it was very clear that it was in decline and was going to be in decline for quite some time, but we were trying to get a large portion of folks into this cohort training. So instead of having every single participant work through those intricacies on their own, we pulled together some information about where there was training or where there were jobs available in different parts of the state and different parts of the country, pulled together those statistics so that people could put them in their training packets with a letter that said, I'm aware that the job that I'm applying for isn't in demand in Aberdeen, but it is in demand in these areas, and when I graduate from the program, I intend to move for employment. So while that's a different case, I think you all could end up with a pretty similar situation to where maybe the information isn't on the demand decline list, but we can pull together some good resources that you guys can reproduce and reuse for folks.
Okay. Great, thank you.
And Caitlin, could you also send us the questions that the students would have to ask, at least for the school part of it, just so we'd have an idea of what they need to accomplish?
Yeah, I will definitely do that.
Okay, that'd be great.
So questions and okay. And then there's just a couple more things that you guys might encounter with Trade Act plans. They're going to have progress reports that they need to bring to the school that go in their file. They're going to be handing in their grades as they're going along, but need to get things signed off that says, yep, they're still making adequate progress, they're still in school full-time. And so being aware that folks might be coming to you for that information as well. And that is unique to Trade Act and not a part of some of these other programs. So I thought it would be helpful to talk just a little bit, and I'm looking at the time, and I'll try and be concise, but talk a little bit about.
And Caitlin, no worries. We can go over on your portion, no trouble at all. So.
Okay, thanks. So identifying Trade Act participants is going to be important for you all because I know that a large portion of the folks that you're trying to recruit are Trade Act participants. So there's a couple ways to do that. First, actually going out and doing the recruiting. Well, when a company gets certified, if it's a larger layoff, usually approximately 30 workers or more, they're going to actually go out and do a formal Trade Act orientation. And that's similar to rapid response for those of you who are a part of the rapid response system, which is, you know, just a normal layoff going out and talking about unemployment insurance. But this is specifically to Trade Act. So folks have already gotten the unemployment insurance information. Now they're being told, you're certified, here's what those benefits mean. And that's a good opportunity if there are sessions like that in your area, especially if they're in a field that seems to be a pretty good feed into this field. To be going and talking to those workers about your program and bringing handouts. I spoke with Rob Mills, who's one of the Trade Act coordinators in the state, and he said that he's happy to get Margaret onto the list, so she'll be notified when those sessions are and can share that to you, with you in your local area. That's going to be one of the easiest ways to find Trade Act eligible workers, talk to them about the program, and encourage them to come in and see you. The other thing to note is that when people come into your office and say, you know, hey, I heard about this training, I'm interested in it, asking them about what company they were laid off from and doing just a little bit of kind of feeding into their history, there's oftentimes workers that are eligible for trade that don't even know it. We see them head in to see the Dislocated Worker Program, or they go into veteran services, and they were laid off from a certified company and weren't aware of it before. And so we try and hit this at as many spots as possible, but the front desk at the work source, you guys as you're seeing them, and yet people still fall through the cracks. So on the second page here, we just have some sort of sample questions. Is the reason for your layoff related to? That's more so about looking for potential petitions. If people talk about their layoff and they say, gosh, I was working in a call center and my job went away, asking some of those feeder questions. Well, did they say where your work went? Oh yeah, it went to North Carolina. Okay. But a lot of times people say, well, there's a facility in North Carolina and there's a call center in Singapore and one in Montego Bay, and I really think that my jobs have gone there. Those are some of the comments that then you can add some more follow-up questions and get in touch with us. We're happy to help anybody who thinks there might be a tie there that we can see if we can get them maybe certified for petition and get them access to better benefits. The other thing is that sometimes there are companies that are attached to an existing petition where if there's an upstream supplier, downstream, either way to an already certified company, we can sometimes tie that to an existing petition. So it's not that, okay, a mill shut down in this area and so now the grocery store isn't getting as much business. That's too far of a tie. But the drivers that were doing delivery, or sometimes it'll be a product and then more of a raw material, and then there's a company that purchases that raw material and makes it into a finished product. We can then connect the company that's purchasing the raw material to the existing Trade Act petition. So doing some inquiry about what the company was, who they served, jot down some notes. You're not expected to wrap your mind around all this, but if you get some thoughts in your mind, hey, maybe there's a tie here, send us the information. We'll work with you and see if we can figure out a tie. The other thing is, quite simply, sometimes people already have an existing petition and don't even know it. And you guys can access the petitions down here at the bottom of the second page on the U.S. Department of Labor website. Just doing a quick search of people's company name, or doing a search of Washington State, or I think someone from Virginia is on the call, wherever, and scroll through and look. Because sometimes people were told that they were eligible for Trade Act. They went into WorkSource and said, I'm thinking about retraining, and they meant really Trade Act, and they don't get shuffled to the right person. And so sometimes you can find folks that are already certified just by doing a quick search. Does that make sense? Are there questions about that? And like I said, one of the things that Bill and I do most, sort of one of our main functions, is doing some of this research, helping people with petitions. We've got a website down here, also at the bottom of the page, that we made through our Department of Labor grant. We were told, well, we pursued the grant because it was an effort from the Department of Labor to make Trade Act more approachable to people, so that workers who think they might be eligible, so that workforce counselors who need some support with filing petitions, all these different entities could get some real plain talk language about how this process works and get some support so that we could get more petitions filed, more participation out of participants, or out of petitions that are certified. So we made this website that's linked below, and it goes through some overviews of what the petition process looks like, some explanation about how you make this tie of foreign competition and what that really means, and is a good resource if you want to send workers there or get some information yourself. And you've got our email addresses, and shoot us an email, just a little bit of information, and we'll start a dialogue there and see what we can do for you. The other thing that Bill and I do that we can help you guys with is we work with all these different entities throughout the system, and oftentimes can say stuff that not everybody can. Because we're a separate entity, if workers are hitting snags in the system, something's going wrong with their unemployment, or they feel like they're not getting quite, sent in the right direction or something like that, then people are away. We generally know who the different entities are that they're working with, and can help people figure out what their next steps are, can call up unemployment on their behalf, get a little bit better of an explanation about what's going on for them, and call them back and help them muddle through some of this. So please feel free to use us in that regard as well.
And
yeah?
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to add that you mentioned something that would be very helpful to you and Bill would be to have a list of any prerequisite education or work experience that our students should have, so that you can match make between certified companies and our programs.
Yes.
So if all of you could start assembling information about that. Also, once we all have web pages for our programs, we'd like to provide sort of a one-stop shopping for TAA participants, so they could land on one site and see all of our programs.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, we're often seeing people either as things are closing down or shortly thereafter, and the more information that we have about where you all are located, what your training entails, so that we can help sell the program as well, the better. We're seeing a lot of people with some skills that seem to be a pretty good tie to what you folks are working on, but maybe need to specialize it a little bit more. They have some IT background, but some additional training in this field would get them some new opportunities. And we're pretty excited to be able to share with them the work that you all are doing so that we can try and funnel some people your direction. The other goal that we have in this partnership with your Health IT grant is doing some meetings around the state that we've done before and found a lot of success with, which is just going out and seeing some of these folks face to face. We often see only the people that we're dealing with in some of these sessions, and they aren't necessarily seeing all their community partners. So we've gone and set up meetings to where the folks at the WorkSource, local colleges, we invite economic development, chamber of commerce, community organizations, different things in that local area to talk about what some of the needs are, what opportunities are available, and want to have you all join us on those and come in and sell your program and talk about what's going on, talk about what the needs are, and make those connections with Trade Act counselors so that those folks can be then sending people your way. So we're working with Margaret on making that possible, and we'll definitely be staying in touch with you and sending out some emails about when we're going to be making that happen.
Yes, and I'll be giving Caitlin a list of your contact information and, you know, where you're located so that she knows who to contact for which meetings.
Hey, can I ask a quick question, Caitlin?
Yep.
So do you target, like I'm sure that when people come in, they come in from a wide variety of backgrounds. Do you target certain people for certain programs, or is there a way WorkSource does that? Or is it just sort of people come and talk about, you know, their programs to whoever happens to be there?
So for the most part, you're talking at Trade Act orientation?
I'm talking any method that this is done. What I really was wondering is if there's a way to target people that would be more appropriate for our particular programs through email, phone, whatever.
Yeah. So, you know, when Bill and I are out talking with workers, we're trying to be cognizant of what skills they roughly have coming into it and what might be good to send them towards, because we know the limitations of how many prerequisites some folks need to be able to completely switch gears into something else. So obviously when we're out talking to people, we're going to be pushing your program more so when there's layoffs that seem like there's some tie there. And WorkSource does the same. But as far as you folks getting an opportunity to go out and speak with workers as they're going through some of these sessions or rapid response, I think that the goal is to provide you with all of the information, and then you can choose yourself which is going to be the best move for you to pursue that. You know, because it depends. Some people, I don't know, some layoffs have a more clear tie than others, but it depends on your availability to go out and speak with them.
But I was wondering if, I mean, you're right that some backgrounds would be better for matching, so I was wondering if there's, you know, if there's lists of students that, or, you know, people who are receiving benefits that we could send to, or, I mean, we wouldn't have to be in the room with them, or you wouldn't either, if they're told about certain programs based on their skill sets or things like that available.
So as far as a list of who all the workers are and being able to send them information, that's something that we've been asking for quite some time, especially because we've been trying to get better resources to track people through the system and say, where are all these folks who are falling through the cracks, and can't we send some follow-up information? And unfortunately, that complex of a database doesn't quite exist yet. But if you want to be sending your information, the best way to do it probably is to be looking at the information that comes out about what layoffs are happening, what sessions are happening, and then each local area has staff at the WorkSource and the Workforce Development Council that coordinate those efforts. And if you wanted to send some handouts or make some calls to the counselors and say, yeah, I think there might be a tie here, there might be some interest, can I remind you about our program and let you know what we have coming up this next quarter, those are things that you can do with those folks at the local level.
Okay.
I feel like maybe I'm not quite getting what your question is.
Well, my question was more if there was a more targeted method other than having to either communicate through the employment security people or you guys, or meet the people directly. I was trying to find some method that when a worker comes in with these skills, they're saying, well, you match these programs, and one of those will be ours.
And then they would just,
they would also contact us as opposed to us trying to reach each of them.
The way, honestly, I hate to say it, but the way that they're going to hear about your program and get your contact information is by either walking into the WorkSource and asking about the program or getting a handout at a session and getting your information that way.
Okay.
I wish that there were more complex systems out there, but as it stands right now, those are kind of the way that people are hearing about the program.
Thank you.
Any other
But
questions?
that is a good idea.
Any other questions for Caitlin? You're a quiet group today. Caitlin, thank you so much for taking the time to inform us about TAA, and we look forward to.
Yeah, thank you. And you guys have my contact information now, and Bill's as well. So if there are questions that came up that you didn't ask, we're always available. Shoot me an email, give me a call, we'll work through it. I'll do my best to get some of these answers that we brought up in questions today and get that out to you folks. And then, you know, anything along the way, just give me a holler and we'll see what we can do.
Great. Thanks again. Take care.
Great. Thanks so much.
Okay. Well, it looks like we'll save a discussion about recruiting veterans for our next meeting. A few updates. Esther, would you like to unmute and give an update on the student information database?
I would love to. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Can you hear me, Margaret?
Loud and
Okay.
I can hear you fine.
Oh, thank you. So we've been working on the student information database, and hopefully the plan is to have something to send out to everyone on May 24th. So something for you to play with over Memorial Day weekend. Just kidding. But hopefully have that out for review next week.
Great. Thank you, Esther. And also, we're going to, next week we will start putting Navigator resources on our HIT education site, and we'll send you information on where to find that as soon as we start putting things up. And if you have things that are in your arsenal that you think would be valuable to other navigators, please do send it my way, and I'll add it to resources. Also, I am looking for a volunteer to facilitate the June meeting because I am going to need to be out of town. Anybody willing to facilitate the June meeting? We were looking at...
I will, and Andy said he will.
Andy, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And the next topic we had, based on the interest that you all indicated, we'll be looking at the student information database, and we'll also be looking at effective student retention practices. Any comments or questions on anything?
This is Adriana, and I'm wondering if when we get this example student database on the 24th, if we can also get directions on how to edit it, because I actually had Matthew send me a copy of it, and I'm trying to, with some of the drop-downs, it's going to really depend on the school. So, for example, the courses or what, even with ours, all the different medical programs, they're going to be different. So if we could have the directions on how to edit the database, I kind of know, but not exactly, so that we could gear it towards our students a little bit more.
Okay. Esther, did you, I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, definitely that's going to be an issue. So we'll have some instructions and also plan to spend some time on the phone with you too if we need to.
Okay, great. That sounds good.
All right.
Right, thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in today. I know I learned, I now know a lot more about TAA than I did before, and I hope that's the same for you. And Caitlin and Bill are really wonderful to work with, so I think that they'll be very helpful to all of us in terms of promoting our programs among TAA-eligible participants. Any other comments or questions on anything?
Margaret, do we know if it sounds to me like the way she was describing it is the programs themselves almost have to be approved, like the student needs to be approved too for the work, but the program itself has to be approved, whether, you know, this program will lead to employment. Has any of that work been done already?
Has any of that work been done where?
Well, like the program, the student both has to be approved for TAA, but also the program they're going into has to be approved through, you know, they were saying that, does this program lead to employment? And you were saying that because we're not on that one list, I forget what it was called, that we might be in some challenge there. Has there been some legwork already done on that stuff?
You mean by individual colleges? I think people are probably just doing that now.
Okay. It was more about the programs themselves. Yeah, I didn't know whether those are, if the TAA people or whoever approves this have already seen some of our programs and know about them.
No, I think they look at each individual plan, is my understanding.
Okay.
But certainly there will be some information that just on health IT jobs in general that we can share, that we've pulled together when we wrote the grant, but it will vary from college to college. You know, a program doing networking in health IT will need to track down evidence of jobs in networking, for example.
Right, that's what I was wondering. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anything else?
I think it'd be helpful to maybe add like a general Q&A to some of these monthly meetings, just to bring up anything like meeting with students or any concerns that came up, or to share something or anything like that. Just, you know, I mean, I know sometimes like this time it took a lot of time, but other times when we maybe when we don't have as much on the agenda, to have kind of just a general session of just talking with everybody.
Does that sound like a good plan to everybody? If you could just chat in the chat window.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, great. I think that would be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
All right. Well, have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thanks.